You didn't hear this, Kathy, but my computer broke about 5 minutes before I logged on. And so I was trying to find out if I could do this on my iPad or phone. So here I am on my iPad.
Awesome.
I know. Athletic trainers, right?
That's right.
Divers.
So where's home for you guys?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
I lived in Milwaukee for a while.
And oh my God.
Where? What part?
Yeah.
Greenville?
Greendale?
Field?
There's a green field and a Greendale.
It was forever ago. Yeah, I worked at Bostic Sug. It was one of my, in between athletic training kind of things. I worked downtown. I took the bus. I was at the time married to a guy who was playing for the Wave at the time.
Oh, there you go. Milwaukee Wave. Nice. Yeah, probably maybe Greenfield. I don't know. Yeah.
I can't remember. It was a while back.
You like Milwaukee?
Milwaukee was awesome. I didn't quite understand the river breaking situation because I'm from California and Hawaii and the river never breaks. But apparently I married a man now. My husband is awesome. He's from Maine and they always talk about ice out. Is that what it's called?
Maybe.
When the ice breaks and the rivers actually moves again.
Yeah. That's actually pretty cool to see.
Pretty cool city. That's a really fun place to live.
In certain months.
Yes.
In the warm months.
Yeah. You live a little bit of everywhere, huh?
Yeah. 4 districts.
Now we're splitting this district up.
I know we voted on that. You're welcome. You guys are going to be 11, right?
Yep.
11? Yeah.
Double digits.
Quite amazing.
All right, you guys ready?
Sure, why not?
Make sure it's started. All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast, a podcast to promote and improve your practice as an athletic trainer. We're going to do that today by letting you get to know the candidates. So Katie and Kathy are joining us, but I'm also being joined by Chad and Kevin from Candid AT Podcast. And so if you've listened to them at all, you know that they have a unique style. It's completely different than what I do here, but they're just funny guys. They have fun things. And so it's going to be a fun time to look at the candidates completely different than what we would do if we're just getting to know the normal, what is your platform kind of questions. And so I'm excited about this. It's going to be fun. Join in if you have, a question on Facebook Live, then I'll try and get that in. But I can imagine that we're going to be running short on time here as it is. So again, this is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/candid candidates. Again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/candid candidates. So if you can join the conversation, we'd love it. If not, then get to know Katie and Kathy. So without much further ado, Chad and Kevin, why don't you guys take it away and let's get right to it.
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy, for the intro. And I guess we are unique. That's a nice way of saying it. So Katie and Kathy, thanks for joining us today. We're going to start with a real easy question for you, okay? So if you've listened to our show, we're known for a few different things, our segments. One of them is our fictional athletic trainer debate. So we're going to start with a fictional athletic trainer question for you. And we're going to ask you why your undergraduate mascot would make the best athletic trainer. So we have a longhorn and a beaver,
I think.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so why would your mascot make the best athletic trainer?
Go.
Katie, you're on our left
Either
here, left to right. So go ahead, Katie.
It's simple. First of all, the beaver is a very, very versatile animal. It's a great mascot. It's ferocious. For the most part, it's just very chill and adaptable. Works in great with the environment. You don't even know it's there. And then if you anger it, it goes bat crazy. It can also take something out of nothing and make a phenomenal home to lure other beavers there. It can eat almost anything, and everything it leaves behind is better. But again, you don't see the beaver. It's under the water. It's very quiet. It hides until you need it.
Wow.
So
Strong play there. because she mentioned food.
Yeah, she said it'll eat anything, just like an athletic trainer. Do you have any actual personal interaction with some beavers?
I used to mountain bike quite a bit. So we would see them and they would just, you'd ride by and they would look up and kind of, sup. And then they were very non-threatened by pretty much anything, which is great if you're dealing with a coach, right? Not much rattle them. They don't run and hide. They're like my ground.
Just watching,
So,
stepping in when they need to.
Yep.
Thinking
And
about-
then the tail, the tail is a warning. So when they flap the water, that's like all balls off deck, everything, just that's a warning. And so I think there's a lot of ways that an athletic trainer could be like my first mascot.
Okay.
I like it. Strong argument.
All right, and how about the Longhorns?
Longhorn.
Here, Kathy.
Well, the Longhorn is a magnanimous animal. It's very quiet. It's very slow moving, but when it rears its head, people pay attention. A Longhorn is one of the most graceful large animals I've ever seen, but don't get in the way of the horns if you do something wrong and you aren't following, yes sir, you aren't following the rules of the athletic trainer. So I think it's a very quiet presence, but becomes very loud when it needs to become loud. So would make a great athletic trainer, absolutely.
In the background for a little bit, and then when something happens, it comes to.
Absolutely.
What about like rehab, treatments, eval? Is there going to be a specialty?
Yeah.
Is there something that they're really going to excel at?
I can't tell who you're at.
But both of us, are you?
We'll go with Kathy. Why don't you go first on this
Sure.
one?
Is
And then
there
we'll go
a
back.
rehab specialty for a Longhorn? Wow.
Think rehab, emergency situations, maybe your hands-on skills, maybe the administrative skills,
Yeah, what's their gonna
and
what are they gonna be best
personality.
at?
Yeah. If you got to give them one thing that they're the best at, what would you say?
I would say administration, because they're quiet and contemplative and they're problem solving because of their quietness and stoicness. So I would say administrative for a Longhorn.
Okay. All right. How about the Beavers?
And I must have been channeling each other's brain because that's the first thing that came to mind, but I won't duplicate. I would say, in terms of being a team player, the Beaver just quietly gets things done. But when you look back, the little bit of things that busy as a Beaver is doing under the radar becomes pretty amazing and pretty defensible. So they just work hard under the radar, get things done, and don't want a lot of attention. I'll say that.
I'm not gonna lie, you both made way better arguments for your mascots than I thought you.
We're running for president.
It's
Come
in your
on.
heart. It's in your heart when you're talking about our mascots.
Jeremy, we're gonna put you on the spot.
Let's go, Jeremy.
Pick one.
Oh.
Oh, I'm the judge here.
Judge.
Well, I don't know if is that really fair. I mean, obviously I'm going to pick the Longhorn. I'm from Houston.
Yes, sir.
I grew up like wanting to go to UT, so how could I not pick a Longhorn?
It's a respect thing. I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. Okay. So one of the other segments that we do, it's called F, Marry, Kill. Okay. So it's basically just to try to give you a really hard decision to make.
Okay.
All right. So you understand the rules of the game?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think it goes along with a lot of what's going on in athletic training right now. I think there's a lot of talk about CEUs, right? And how we're going to get our CEUs and where we get them and what's going to be the access. So what I want to start with is we're going to go EBPs, category B, and then category D CEUs. So you have to F1, marry one, kill one. Who goes first?
Kathy, go.
Let's go,
first.
Kathy.
Category B, category D,
And EBP.
and EBPs.
Mhm.
Well, I would have to say, wow. I'm trying to remember what's in the different categories, I have to say.
No. So category B, right, is the category D is anything that's not an accredited like provider, right?
Right,
But
right.
it has with athletic training.
But it's out there.
Category B was giving lecture or talks, presentations, things like that. And then these are everyone's favorite, evidence-based.
Yes, and I would kill category D.
Okay.
And I'm going to come back to why in a minute.
Sure, no problem.
I would marry EBPs because I think that is a lifelong commitment to learning. And for us to grow as a profession, we have to be committed to getting better every day and doing it based on what's out there in the evidence. And I would lecturing, the category B, because having done a ton of lectures, it's a rush. And it's about sharing that knowledge, and it's about getting in that rhythm and doing everything you can to impart your knowledge. So those two reasons for EBPs and Bs is why my least favorite then would be the D. I think while it's important, I want it to be applicable and pertinent to athletic training and make it a part of my everyday professional life. So that's my choices.
Great. Katie.
Great job, Kathy. Similar. It's sort of unfair. I'm a professor, right? So I lecture. Ask my husband. I lecture all the time. I write papers, and when you write papers or when you do a presentation at a professional meeting, you get those categories. You write a book, you get more. So those I would say F, because I do them all the time. In terms of Mary, absolutely evidence-based, push the profession forward. I would kill the Ds because those are, to me, people that are struggling at the end, and they say they can't find good talks. And so they're just scrambling to get credit for something. And if we're going to keep moving forward, like Kathy said, if we're going to keep getting better and better, we have to challenge ourselves. And EBP is a way to do that.
All right. Fair enough. Very fair.
So I know I said I was going to kind of let you guys run, but it is really funny hearing our potential presidents talk about what they're going to FMK.
I know, right?
Like, I don't think I'm really seeing on the screen, but it's really, like, I'm just over here laughing because it's really funny. Just like hearing you guys, Chad and Kevin, is one thing, but hearing Kathy and Katie talking about this, it's completely different.
But Jeremy, you didn't have to defend the beaver. So I have a feeling there's going to be some sound bites somewhere that are going to be out there when I'm sounding all serious that's out of context. It's all good. The things that Kathy and I are doing for the members, seriously.
Absolutely.
We have to get them out of their comfort zone a little bit, just a little.
What athletic training is about, right?
Yeah.
Being uncomfortable.
That's right.
Okay, so what we have next, what do you, and we'll start with you, Katie, this time. What are you going to miss most about the NATA convention this year, not being in person?
Oh, that just stabbed me in the heart. The people. I've missed one convention in my life, two. One was in Seattle and I didn't have the money to get there from the Midwest. And the other one is my mother-in-law passed away. And it was a little indelicate to skip the funeral, right? To go to the NATA to see everybody. Bar none, the people that are speaking, the people that you sit in the audience with, the people around you that tell you to stop talking so they can listen to the speaker, the socials. I mean, I've been in 4 districts, so there's a lot of socials I've got to go to. I graduated from 3 universities. I've taught it more than that. So there's a lot of people. I'm going to miss. And the NATA does such a phenomenal job about packing it in. And I tell young people all the time. So if you're rolling at 2 or 3 in the morning and you're up at 7 and dressed appropriately and wide-eyed and in the EBPs, that's how you convention. That's it. You don't just roll in at 1 in the afternoon because you were up too late. You have to go to the sessions, etc. So the NATA does an amazing job of putting all that together and allowing all those things to happen. But in every breath of my fiber, the people. Yes.
Love it. Love it. Kathy?
Energy. And that comes from so many different parts of the NATA convention. A lot of it, as Katie has mentioned, is relationships. Yes, the alumni parties. Yes, the social activities. There is nothing more energizing than to be sitting in the audience and see the curtain go up on the Hall of Fame ceremony, or to hear the keynote speaker. The energy that's in the room for those, and for lectures. The energy I get from the relationships with the people that I get to see, the things I get to learn. There's 2 main events that happen for the NATA that I walk out exhausted because I'm so energized and so empowered by what I've heard and what I've seen and what I've experienced. One of those is the NATA annual meeting. The other is JCM, where it's just people and ideas, and we're all trying to move the profession forward at the same time. And it's just energizing. And it gets you on a high that for me lasts a few weeks at least, while I'm processing everything that I've just experienced. But it's the energy and the empowerment from that experience that gets me the most.
Love it. Have you ever been to NATA before last year? So both of us, it was our first NATA last year.
Oh, wow.
And I never could go. I was always in professional baseball, and so it was always in the summer, so I could never attend. But I actually agree with both of you in that I left that place, one, meeting more people in a span of 4 or 5 days than I've ever met in my life. And then 2, feeling particularly like about the podcast. I mean, that was one of the major reasons we went, is because Jeremy invited us down. And I mean, was so excited to like enter this new part of athletic training that we were doing as a podcast. And so that's good. I like both your answers. That's pretty awesome.
100%.
Yeah. So another thing that we often do on the podcast, and because everybody loves a really good list of, whether it's the top 10, greatest, I don't know, basketball players of all time or what have you. We often do something called a Mount Rushmore, right? And so we will make a Mount Rushmore of, who knows, your favorite comic book characters or the best comic book characters or something. But we wanted to challenge you a little bit, kind of speaking to some of our audience, in that we have a lot of athletic training students that follow us. And I think from the 2 of you having so much experience in athletic training, not only from the clinical side, but then also getting into business and now like really high in the administrative roles and now trying to be the president of our association. I would like you to give us your Mount Rushmore. So the 4 things that you would advise, or the four things that you feel young professionals just graduating, just getting certified, the issues they're going to face right out of that certification process that you think, you know what, I wish somebody would have told me about this, or I wish I would have been a little more prepared about this. What do you think those 4 biggest issues for a young professional is, or are? Sorry, bad English. We'll go, how about Kathy? Kathy, start.
4 issues facing a newly graduated young professional. My understanding. Okay.
Yeah.
So first I would say Give yourself a break. You're not going to know everything on that first day walking into that new job. Learn what you can, do what you can. You're not going to get everything done in that first day. So that would be the first thing. Interprofessional communication is the most important part of your job. And that's you and the athlete, you and your administrator, you and your coaches, you and your boss, you and your school board president, whatever that is. Interprofessional communication. Continue to learn, no matter. Continue to learn. You don't know everything, and none of us know everything, and we have to continue to be open to education. And finally, advocacy and showing your value is the most important thing you can do. And as a young professional, I know that's difficult because there's so many things going on as a young professional, but if you can do the smallest thing to advocate and show your value early, it'll make your professional life so much easier as you go along. So those are my 4.
Love it.
I would say make sure that you're doing everything you can to follow your contract. And I mean it in this way. If you are in a contract where you're putting 20 hours at the high school, don't stay and help out and do 30 and 40. That leads to burnout, and it leads to failure for the person who comes behind you. So if it's overwhelming, sit down with your administrator, who I hope is a medical professional, and say, I've got 7 home events, 3 are at the same time. What do you want me to cover? And so your contract is the beginning of so many good and so many bad things. Because if you don't follow it, then you have life balances, you're stressed out, it's job satisfaction. So that's number 1. Secondly, policies. There are so many tools on the NATA web pages about what are best practices for everything from, lightning to heat illness to return to play from concussions. Make sure you have those and that you have them and you follow them, because then you're treating everyone the same. If you have a policy and you deviate from it, you're setting yourself up for all sorts of problems. So it's a pain in the tush, but look at your leadership and management or your organ ad class, and those faculty were teaching you things that you're going to use. Third, you are enough. You are well trained. You know what you're doing. Stand your ground. So when I say you are enough, I mean there should be no other human being besides a physician that tells you you don't know your stuff. So when you're explaining that they can't go because of a concussion, stand your ground. You know more. You were well trained. So it's a matter of that. You are enough, you are well trained, but also keep learning. And the last thing, because since I can only pick 4, I'm putting mentor over data, although I love data. Find a mentor, and that mentor could literally be someone who is 20 years older or 6 months older, or has been in that same setting, or somebody that you can call and say, what do I do if? And that person will lift you and raise you and help you keep your policies, keep your you are enough, keep your balance, keep your contract.
Yeah. Actually, the contract one is really, that's huge. That's something I did not learn right away.
Yeah.
I definitely, I worked way too much when I was a new grad. And
right, because you want to prove your worth. You're so excited.
I still do it to this day.
still working too much, right? I think it's, I will say, I don't know if you want to put it on the docket of something. I mean, an issue that has come up with some of our like athletic training students that follow us is that how do you negotiate a contract, and how do you go into talking to your administration or this new job and you're just excited you got a job, right? How do you go about, negotiating time for yourself and salary, and I mean everything that goes in with that? I think that's a real issue with new grads, new certifieds, that unfortunately you can't learn a lot about it until you actually sit down in front of somebody and actually negotiate it. So I think going forward, that's going to be a really big one.
I tell new grads that they get one shot to pick, just have a job. And after that, they have to be mindful. So everyone gets that one shot. And that's understandable. But then after that, if you're still choosing those bad things, that's on you. Sorry,
Yeah.
Kathy.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think we do a great job with our students, teaching them how to write a resume and how to do an interview, but we don't do as good a job teaching them how to have those hard conversations about money and about hours and that is just the next step that we need to start including so they can have those conversations. We've been taught throughout our professional lives in athletic training that our salaries are set. If you're in an athletic situation, your salary is this, and your stipend is this on top of it, and that's all we can do, and we just accept it and go on. But yet we're starting to see our strength coaches and our coaches negotiating higher salaries. So we just need to get out of that mindset of what they tell us is the way it is, and say, no, I'm a healthcare provider. I deserve more. And we'll start adding that into our education so we can do a better job with that.
Love it.
Yeah, we're stuck.
And continuing with that, our young professionals, we have, I just got off of a practice advancement committee call right before my computer broke. And they have different segments of the population. And one of them is entrepreneurship, where they're trying to build materials for everybody. And so our suggestion was how to read a contract, how to negotiate. Their cell phone should be paid for, their membership dues should be paid for, but the answer is no until you ask. And that first job, people are just, I have a job, and that's your one. And then after that, you start getting more savvy.
So I think we need to have either, I can't remember which one of you, either Chad or Kevin, your mom is a contract negotiator. So next up, we have a podcast with Chad's mom, right?
Nice.
Director of personnel for a school district. Yeah. I think what the take home that it's such a fine line between wanting to do such a good job and prove your value, and then just going too far and being taken advantage of. It's how do you teach that? It's really incredible. So
Burnout.
And I think that it's an avenue for us to start showing what our worth is, right? And that we don't take our jobs lightly. So please don't take our contract lightly, right? And so I love it. I love that is even a thought that's going to go into an education process now.
Yes.
It's so good.
All right, next up, and we'll start, I think we're back to Katie going first here. How are you going to best get your objectives communicated to people? Like, how are you most comfortable communicating, or what resources do you want to take advantage of in getting what you want the profession to be going forward?
Well, we've been very fortunate, and I'm trying to hear this right, what my goals are if I were to be president. You mean, is that what you're
It's
asking?
just that, and like, how do you get them communicated to the people? Like, what's the best way to reach everybody?
I think the NATA is doing an amazing job, because both Kathy and I have been afforded a tremendous amount of exposure through NATA News. I mean, every single issue since February, we've been in it, and we've already turned in our June stuff. They have another opportunity for us to speak with each other next week. And I think something that we're both doing that is very, very clever is we are really trying to be responsive to the people. So if a segment that is let's say ethnic diversity committee for the NATA, they have to ask permission from the NATA so they can interview us, so that it's a very specific back and forth like you've done. Ask the same questions, because if you don't do that, you could have one candidate look terrible or one candidate get the questions. And so using the NATA platform is really the best fare for both of us. But we also want to make sure that people have access. I mean, there's people that don't do Instagram, people that don't do Twitter and don't do Facebook. There's people that will read the magazines. So for me, I work for the last 40 years, 17 to 23-year-old kids that are growing up and graduating. So I want to basically be able to reach them, and they don't do Facebook. So anything that if people want to reach out to us, whatever the platform is, I think we're trying and we're doing a pretty good job. And I think the NATA is doing a really outstanding job compared to any of the presidents that have gone before us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I agree. I think the answer here is diversity. We have to acknowledge that everybody, all 47,000 members communicate differently. Some people love the NATA news and some people don't. They don't want to read anymore. They want to get their information through social media, or they want to get their information through a podcast or through a FaceTime Live. So I think being cognizant of those differences and trying to reach out on all the different mediums is the most important thing. And yes, all of the mediums are different based on your age group, right? Some people gravitate to certain types. So I think being aware of that and making sure that the messaging is going out. We're not sure what's going to happen in June, but we are told there is a media plan, and there's going to be even more media events, and they're going to be even more diverse than what we've seen so far. So I think the NATA is responsive to that. So our messaging will continue through all of those different diverse platforms, and trying to communicate in whatever way we can to reach those people. I still believe that the most effective way of communication is face-to-face or a phone call, because then it's an undivided attention to that particular person that you're able to talk with. But being, what we do best, respond and react. However people want to communicate, I think, is the way that we need to communicate as a profession, and that's what I'm dedicated to do if I'm elected.
I like it. And I think, because there's so much social media now. And it's so abundant in everything that we do. And not just athletic trainers, right? Everybody's lives. And so I think it's a really tricky river to float down, right? Because you're going to have to battle everything else when you really just want to get your voice heard from the NATA. Because I'll be very honest. I mean, ever since I've been an athletic training student, and then till this day, I feel like I'm not up to the know in like what's going on with the NATA. And a large part of that is on me because I don't seek it out. But I would love there to be a little bit more in your face of like, this is what the NATA is, and this is what we're doing. And I don't really know the answer to like how to make that happen. So hopefully one of you do. But I think it's something that's been unfortunately missing, to be an advocate of, you know what, I don't want to explain to everybody what an athletic trainer is anymore, as much as I love explaining my career. But I think if we